Big AI is obsessed with India. But why? I mean, just a couple weeks ago at the AI Impact Summit in India, there were a bunch of problems from traffic to potential IP theft to major speakers like Bill Gates even pulling out. But just as that there were issues at that event, it also highlighted major players, major companies investing hundreds of billions of dollars. Bloomberg reports that India is likely to attract over $200 billion in AI-related investments over the next 2 years. But they're not alone. Major hyperscalers like Amazon, Microsoft, Google have all committed tens of billions of dollars to India across cloud and AI expansion over the coming years. Guys, we are seeing so much money. I mean, the numbers are just staggering. But it's not just about the investments that are happening, it's how that's going to impact the way that we work, the way that we operate. Listen, as men that want to remain relevant, respected, and financially free, we have to recognize that the world is changing. And we'll kind of talk about that in a moment, at least the way that I see my function in the world changing. And I think that basically anybody that's working on a computer needs to think that AI is going to impact me in a certain way. And listen, I've been on the kind of the train of outsourcing for years now. I read Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Workweek, which is essentially all about hiring virtual assistants overseas to do work for you. And I've worked with dozens and dozens of virtual assistants from India, the Philippines, Serbia, Bangladesh, all over the world. But what's happening now is we're seeing hundreds of billions of dollars being put into AI, and that's going to completely and fundamentally shift the way that we operate. I mean, I think a lot of people, when, especially Americans, when we go out to look for a job, we think that we're only competing against our neighbors. We're only competing against fellow Americans, but that's not the case. You're competing against people all over the world. And right now, you're also finding that you're competing against companies that are implementing AI. Again, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but what I want to do here is just kind of explore what's happening in India from an infrastructure standpoint, from an investment standpoint, and how that actually changes and impacts the way that you create income for yourself, the way that you remain, again, relevant, respected, and financially free. Because if you don't have the right skills moving forward, if you're not able to find work, you're going to lose relevancy, you're going to lose respect, you're going to lose financial freedom, and you're not going to have a happy wife. And we all know that happy wife equals happy life. Quick story on that. I had an AC repair guy out at my house yesterday, and when he left, the AC seemed to be working, but when my wife got home, the AC wasn't working. The fan was short cycling, and long story short, if you want a happy wife, make sure to keep her nice and cool with that AC. Can you feel me? Can you feel me? All right, back on. All right, so we see hundreds of billions of dollars being committed to data centers, chips, cloud, and AI services in India. And what I think is important to understand here is that these massive, huge infrastructure build-outs of data centers, power generation, cooling, all this stuff, electrical, it creates a lot of short-term growth. There's a lot of short-term job creation. The problem, though, is that after the data centers are built, well, they just don't require as many people to maintain, right? So you get a huge spike of work on the front end, and then things slow up on the back end. The other thing that we're going to see here, and I think this is especially a big reason why India is so attractive, is there's a lot of IT services, there's a lot of call centers, there's a lot of English speakers there, and they're all going to be impacted tremendously by this AI build out. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment, kind of how I see the best way to survive that, both from an American and an Indian standpoint. How do you remain relevant, respected, and financially free? Regardless, why are these companies actually funneling all this money? So we've talked about a couple of reasons, but I want to get a little bit more granular, a little bit more specific. And I think one of the big things that's maybe not talked about a lot is the regulatory environment. Because right here in the US, we're seeing tons of data centers being blocked due to environmental scrutiny, concerns over the power grid, water usage, noise pollution. I mean, even the state of Florida has basically said, we don't want data centers, we don't want them. Don't build them here. Don't even think about it. You know, you hear guys like Bernie Sanders saying we need to just put a complete moratorium on data centers. And, you know, how do you win as a tech company? Because you need these data centers, you need this energy to make it happen. And what India is doing is they're opening the floodgates. They're saying, hey, come invest with us. We are the future. We are the new tech hub. What Dubai is to crypto, what Miami is to crypto, we are going to be that for AI. What China is to robots, what Silicon Valley and San Francisco is to computers, we are the future of AI. That's what they're saying. And they're putting their money where their mouth is. They're offering huge incentives, like a 20-year tax exemption, and just very quick approvals. Like, you don't have to, you're gonna be able to get your work approved quickly. You're gonna be able to get your project moving fast. And as we all know, these companies right now are all gas, no brakes. All gas, no brakes. Now, one of the things that I thought was interesting, and I'll post a link to this video here, was during the recent State of the Union address, Trump announced a ratepayer protection plan, which basically forces big tech giants to build their own power plants when they construct new data centers. Because again, one of the big reasons, like at the end of the day, guys, people vote with their wallets. Like, we all know this, right? And if you are going to be paying a higher electric bill because a data center gets built to you, you're going to be against, I would 100% be against a data center being built near me if it was going to increase my electric bill. So anyway, that's a way that the current administration is trying to say, hey, we want to build, we want to drill, baby, drill. We want to, you know, create all this infrastructure here in the States. So in order to kind of make it more palatable for the American people, you're just going to need to build out energy, your own energy, so that people are going to be okay with it. So anyway, that's kind of some of the stuff that's happening with the regulatory. The other thing that I kind of briefly touched on is that India has one of the world's largest tech workforces, and AI firms are salivating at the chance to leverage this. You know, they see it as an AI training hub, a fine-tuning hub. And please believe that that is one of the most important things to these companies right now, is how do we build the best model? How do we get the best training? You know, even Elon has been talking about synthetic data to train models, right? Which is not even real human data. And obviously that, you know, big companies like Claude and ChatGPT have run into problems when they're scraping and training their models off of copyrighted material. At any rate, India has this huge tech force with a ton of people that can help train and fine-tune their models. It's, you know, there's huge IT centers and, quote, consulting agencies, and it's just got a huge infrastructure there, and it's got a very cost-efficient engineering base. Again, this is one of the reasons why myself and a lot of people work with Indians overseas, because they can give you a good quality of work without the higher cost of labor that you would get here in the United States. I think we all inherently know that. That is, by the way, the concept in the 4-hour work week. It's that labor arbitrage. And again, tech companies are taking this to the next level when it comes to AI. But regardless, all this stuff sounds good on its face. The problem, though, is that, you know, and this is, I think, one of the biggest comments that we're seeing here on the channel. All the subscribers of the channel know this, hear this, are reading this, are engaging with other people in the comments. But what's happening here is this idea that, well, I'm training my replacement. As you build out your model, as you train out these models, as you build out the infrastructure, at some point, the companies are going to say, well, we can have the AI do what you are doing at a lower cost. Okay? And this is the dream of AI. The dream of AI is we're going to be 10x more efficient and more effective, and the quality of the work is busy, and everyone's just going to be doing creative work. You're not going to be doing grunt work. That is the utopian vision of AI, that there's just going to be this huge boom in creativity and productivity. And maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. But this is all kind of utopian. What I want to really get down here is this fundamental of how much this infrastructure, how important this infrastructure is, both globally and to India, because what it highlights is that we're moving into the next inning, if you were. I'm big into baseball now. My kids are big into baseball. We're going into the next inning. We're moving into the next chapter of the AI development, which is training and processing power. Because anytime you're using AI, this AI usage requires tokens. And tokens cost money. They cost energy. They cost resources. Every time your LLM is computing, it costs money. Why? Because tokens are being used. Energy is being used to process those queries and those questions and thoughts. Now, as more and more companies, as more and more people are using AI and automation, as more companies are replacing human employees with AI agent employees, their token usage is going to increase, okay? And what this does is it causes a supply and demand problem. As more people demand more tokens, the requirement, the supply of energy is going to be bottlenecked. Let me kind of reframe this here, because what we're seeing here, why all this infrastructure is so important to these big AI companies, is supply and demand. And when we talk about supply, we're talking about the infrastructure, the energy, the power lines, the cooling, the raw materials. And we talk about demand, that's the computation, it's the training models, it's the chips, or it's the data center capacity. And why is this so important? Because the scale and the speed with which AI is progressing is astronomical. I was listening to the All In podcast the other day, great podcast, and Chamath Palihapitiya was saying like, well, you know, what we're going to see over the next year is that the cost of token usage is going to decrease, but the demand is going to increase dramatically. So what might cost you, let's say $10, like a query, let's say a query now costs you $10 to process. In the future, it might only cost you $1. But because 100 people are going to be competing for that same query, you're going to be constrained. And this is why all these data centers are crucial to that big utopian vision, because with the data centers, with the energy, with this infrastructure, you're going to have enough supply to meet the demand for the tokens. Makes sense, right? And to bring all of this around, what I see, the way I forecast the world to look is everyone's going to be using AI. I don't see a world where we just pump the brakes, no one's using AI. And that's not to say that, you know, there might not be an AI bubble and people are overhyped and there, you know, a bunch of big tech companies could come crashing down. All that could happen. But what does this mean for me? It definitely means for me, I'm 43, I've still got another 25 years of like kicking butt and taking names when it comes to being relevant, respected, and financially free, okay? We'll say another 25 years. Maybe it's longer. People are going to live to 150, right? That's what people are saying. So what does that mean to me? Because I want to remain relevant. I want to remain respected. I want to remain financially free. Well, here's kind of the game plan as far as I see it. And feel free to post your comments below. I'm happy to hear them. If your idea is like, Mark, you're a shill and you don't know what you're talking about and you're an idiot, that's fine. You can post that too. Honestly, I don't really care. This is the way I see it, straight up. Okay? And again, if you've been following me for a while, you understand I'm pretty consistent on this. Regardless, this is how I see it. I want to learn AI best practices. Specifically, I want to learn how to quickly train, iterate, and improve AI functions within an organization. I want to be able to move fast. I want to be able to land the deal, train the model, put in a monthly iteration program, and keep it moving. Now, that sounds obvious. You know, one of your big roles in the future will be, how do I get the best results for a company using AI? And whether you're a contractor in India or you're John Smith here, owning a marketing agency in the United States, we should all be thinking about this. We should all be thinking about, hey, how do I train an AI model very, very quickly? How do I iterate on that model? And how do I maintain and improve the function, right? And at least right now, I will say this, just based on the people I'm talking to, the different people in different organizations, the way that I'm thinking with my clients is, while all the speed is great, it is really important that you maintain security and privacy at all costs. This is the crux in all of your messaging. You know, if you're trying to find a job working with someone to implement AI, I would not hire. This to me is one of the biggest things. You know, and don't just say it, but you know, mean it. Take it seriously. Like, we're not just gonna upload all of your information onto a public LLM and have all of your intellectual property and sensitive customer information put at risk. That's not something you want to do, and we've seen a lot of examples of how that occurs. You know, you can't just, if you don't know how to use OpenClaw, don't just hook one of your clients up to OpenClaw and just let it go nuts and go ham. We've covered stories like that too. Protect the data. Protect your customers. Be fast, be secure. This to me is at least level one. That's where we're at. You know, just as an example, you know, the third point I want to make here is that the riches are in the niches. And I mentioned this in a couple of videos ago, but as we iterate, and again, I'm kind of speaking for myself right now, as I iterate, as I learn, as I get better, as I have better privacy and security measures in place, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find niches that win. The better I am in a specific niche, the more laser focused I am on solving a specific problem for a specific person, the more of a blue ocean I create. People can't compete with me because I know how to do this really good and I can scale it really well. And I'll give you a perfect example of something that I'm looking at, something that I'm working on right now. So I manage a pretty sizable budget of both Meta ads and Google ads for a client. And what I'm looking to do is implement Claude Cowork as my own AI assistant to review all of the data, review all of the analytics, and see what hooks are working and what messaging works, and iterate and improve. And one of the things that you're gonna find with ads is that these ad platforms are really hungry for creative. They want more and more and more creative, and that can be exhausting. But with Claude Cowork and with these other AI tools, should be able to scale that up, okay? Take that a step further. Well, now that you've got a strategy, a model, you know what you're doing, well, then you just niche down again. And so, for example, instead of saying, well, I do AI implementation for ads for everyone, you might say, I help insurance companies grow their book of business with AI-powered Google ads. You niche down, then you niche down again, and then you become a powerhouse. This is my plan. I'm bringing it to you straight up. And you're gonna crush, I'm gonna crush. In any event, I will tell you this, wherever the Lord takes me, wherever the lighted path guides me, I promise you this, I will be using AI, I will be learning AI, and I will be iterating with AI. For all you haters out there that don't see it, that's fine. You control your own destiny. My destiny is gonna be AI focused, and I'm going to be following where the money is going so that I can remain relevant, respected, and financially free. Boys, if you enjoyed today's video, smash the like and check out yesterday's video where we talk about exactly how companies are turning old jobs that used to be done by human employees into AI employees. AI agents are the new employees. If you don't get that yet, if that doesn't make sense to you, watch yesterday's video. I'll see you there. Peace.